on the recession. Armine, can you tell us what's so different about this recession from others?
Yeah, Canada hasn't seen a recession descend upon our economy with as much force as this one since the Great Depression. So we've been through a series of recessions, 13 of them since the 1920s, and nothing like this since the Great Depression in terms of how fast it's descended on the economy and the way it's wiped out, the number of jobs it's wiped out in the opening months of this recession.
What made you look at the history of recessions, Armine?
Yeah, we kept looking at these remarkable, what looked like record-breaking numbers of job loss, and I thought, well, I should take a look and see how recessions have unfolded before and how people have lost their jobs before. And I went back to take a look at how many recessions we've had, and the first thing I noticed was there was no recession in Canada in the 1970s by the definition of two back-to-back quarters of decline, which kind of surprised me. And one of the reasons was because we had a very strong unemployment insurance system. In the United States, they had quite a recession in the 1970s, not so much in Canada. So I found only two reports that went back to the 1920s to talk about how recessions had unfolded in Canada, neither of them linking them to job loss. So I thought, I have a job to do here. And I started looking at how they had unfolded and how jobless benefits kind of picked up the slack from the 1940s on. And really the thing that was the most striking is that Canadians have not been this exposed to economic risk since the Great Depression, which is really an eye-popping fact for me. Personal savings rates are at the levels they were at in the late 1930s. Household debt is at a record high. And jobless protection for your income in the event of joblessness has not been this bad since 1942, the year they introduced the unemployment insurance system, and it only improved since then. And you know, we've known for years that we're not recession ready. And so the big question that comes to mind is, like, what are we waiting for? We have to improve employment insurance and fast, or you know, this disaster in the making, which I have to reinforce is utterly preventable, is bound to descend. This is a really big recession.
The disaster is in the making, or is it here now?
I think it's a disaster in the making, and I think what we have learned from past recessions is that governments can soften the blow of recession. They can make it shorter. They can make it less deep. And they can actually, through their investments, not just get you out of a recession, but leave a lasting legacy. This is what happened in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. Every time the government intervened in this period, it wasn't just a fast, you know, export-led, American-led recovery. In fact, the recessions of the 40s and 50s, the Canadian domestic policies made all the difference. And what we put into place at that time actually left a lasting legacy of both social infrastructure and physical infrastructure that Canadians have benefited from the last half century. And we really haven't invested in that way for about 50 years, and it shows, you know. So this is a real opportunity to use the downturn to create the conditions we need for the next inevitable phase of expansion. But that just doesn't seem to be happening fast enough. And so the disaster that I'm talking about is people that are reliant on two incomes, which is the norm now, losing one job, perhaps both, running through their savings, selling whatever they can, which includes, in some cases, selling your house in a buyer's market, and then looking for a cheaper place to live. And we've had a critical shortage of cheap places to live for over a decade now. So this is a really unpleasant and utterly preventable situation where people are scrambling and very exposed to economic risk in a way we haven't seen since the Depression.
I understand you're concerned about the stimulus plans and the restrictions that are imposed on the stimulus partners.
Yeah, we just learned that the municipalities in particular were given the rules to apply for infrastructure funding in the middle of April. I think it was April 14th. And the closing deadline for the applications is May the 1st. And the terms of eligibility are very stringent. The municipalities can only apply for money if they weren't going to do this anyway without federal funding. On the other hand, they have to pony up a third of the money, and everybody's cash-strapped. So you have to wonder, well, what jobs are out there that are going to get done other than road repair or something like that? You know, big, important infrastructure projects won't take place, and this is really the moment that you could do that.